Animal Farm by George Orwell. The barnyard animals of Manor Farm lead a rebellion against Farmer Jones and throw off the shackles of his tyranny, and they take over and run the farm as they see fit. Of course, they is the operative word in that idea because they ends up being Napoleon and Snowball, the pigs, who mastermind how everything should work in society, and we see it turn from a utopia to a dystopia. This is a short book, but it is a classic from George Orwell. It is basically a retelling of the Russian Revolution in a barnyard setting. But it's even deeper than that because it's not only the story of the Russian Revolution, it's the story of all totalitarianism and where it always ends up and the principles underneath it. And it's brilliant that it takes place on a farm with talking animals because those principles are so obvious. So the initial layers of the analogy are pretty obvious. Napoleon, the scheming pig who ends up taking everything over and running the farm into the ground, is Stalin. Snowball, the co-conspirator in the beginning, who starts off as a hero but then turns into a villain by Napoleon, is Trotsky. Mr. Jones, the farmer, is Nikolai II. And then you have Germany and England and the neighboring farms. Napoleon's dogs that end up enforcing everything that Napoleon says is the KGB, and Squealer, the most unlikable of all pigs, the one who is spreading lies throughout the whole book, is the propaganda wing. In a sense, this book is a comedy because it's just kind of funny the way these animals are being tricked at every turn, and there are lots of just funny lines in it if you read it in the right way. But at the same time, it's hard not to be infuriated that Napoleon keeps getting away with it. First, Snowball is a hero as they're charging to battle against Farmer Jones, and then it turns out he was a coward, and then he was actively working with Farmer Jones, and he just keeps changing the story and rewriting what the truth is, and the animals keep going along with it. There's just a constant rewriting of all the narratives in the story because Napoleon's in charge, so he can say what really happened. And the point that he is making here, and the very scary point, I would say, that he is making here, is that if you have control of the military and the police, and you have control of the press, then you can do anything you want because you can reinforce your own power in this cycle of propaganda and strong-arming the population to listen to what you have to say. So that's how it works out in the story. You have Squealer giving the talking points of the truth of what really happened, or the Ministry of Truth, to echo George Orwell's other works. And then you have the dogs that intimidate and scare the rest of the animals into, not questioning what is being said. And I would also say a third element of what kept Napoleon in power was the unintelligence of the animals. Most of the animals can't read, and the ones that can have to explain to the others what's written on the wall. Animals have learned fragmented parts of the alphabet in varying degrees, but then you have the sheep, and all they can chant is 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. And so they basically don't know anything else but that chant. And so that's why Napoleon stays at the top, and all the pigs get closer and closer to being even worse than Farmer Jones. One of the most striking parts to me was towards the end when Boxer's getting old. Boxer is the workhorse, and throughout the book, his whole motto is, "I'm going to work harder," and you can't help but like Boxer and all the different little things that he does throughout the book. It's like you're rooting for Boxer, you like Boxer. And George Orwell does that specifically because he's setting up this cruel twist in the 9th chapter where we think that he is going to the doctor to get all fixed up. But as he's being taken away on the truck, one of the animals that can read says that the side of the truck is painted with this company that kills horses, and so Boxer's going to his death. So they all run after him, they try to stop him, they try to save Boxer, but the car goes off. And then Squealer comes in and says that Boxer was very brave, but he passed away, and Boxer was just thinking about the glory of the Manor Farm. Squealer explains that it says that on the side of the truck, but that was an old purpose of the truck, and the new purpose was exactly what Squealer had said, and how can you ever suggest that Napoleon would ever do something so terrible to such a beloved member of the barn? What's so striking to me about this is I read this book and I really wanted to believe Squealer, the awful, awful pig that is lying throughout the whole book. Because the thing of it is it's more comfortable to believe the lie. Because I don't want anything bad to happen to Boxer, so it feels a lot better in my head to say, oh yeah, okay, Boxer is fine, just like Squealer said, even though I know rationally that Squealer is awful, and everything about Squealer is awful, and of course he's lying. I think this echoes what George Orwell was going for in 1984 when you have the main character at the end accepting and loving Big Brother, because it's so much easier and more comfortable to believe that this was all a big misunderstanding and Big Brother really is there and he really does care about me and it was all just a big misunderstanding. It's easier to accept that than accept the horrible truth of the reality that you have to face. Turning off the rational part of your brain allows reality to be what you want it to be. And that's what I experienced when I read this book. Like, that's really what I wanted, and to feel that pull was unnerving. So this is also, I think, a very timely book, and it speaks to a lot of politics that go on today. I think generally in politics, people will pick a team and then they root for that team even though they don't know much about the details. They just know they're Team Republican or Team Democrat or whatever it may be. And when I hear someone talk that are doing like the rah-rah chants for one side or the other, all I can hear is 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. Like it's amazing how prescient George Orwell was here. So I absolutely love this book. It's one of my favorites. It just goes to show that you can make an awesome story, very short, very simple, and yet extremely profound and relevant. And this is part of the magic of George Orwell, one of my favorite writers, in his best form with this book. I obviously give it 5 stars.